Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing some brakes on Ford Fusion. They've got the electronic brake control. I just finished this side. Thankfully it didn't cause any ruckus with, I had to do a Honda one time. Long story short, you had to have a bunch of fancy tools to be able to reset the electronic brake control solenoid thing on the brakes. So this one worked out a lot easier than that. Still got the avalanche in here. More on that later, but let's finish up these brakes real quick. All right, so this side, fairly easy. Kind of backed into a corner here. Just still that avalanche in here, but I'll kind of give you guys a quick little rundown on my process here. Thank God it's a beautiful day today, but as you can see, I kind of have brake pads box full of some random stuff. So what I do, move that out of your view, I complete one side, and what I do is everything that I needed. Of course, we need some looby dooby, as one man I know calls it. And then this is the slide lube. It's pretty good stuff. I've never had any issues with it. It's slick. Some people use grease, whatever. Not a big deal. Then I've got the little hex head or Allen head to fit pulling the slide pins out, breaker bar or pry bar to knock the caliper off. As you can see, is moving freely, and it's missing the clip here. It's actually this clip, so that's interesting. And then I have my Matco. It's a brake tool. I don't know what the thing is. It's got all the part number. It's got all the different pieces here to interlock with your twist back calipers. I can link that in the description if you guys want to know. But basically what I do is find everything I need to do on one side, then only carry those tools when I'm kind of working on the floor like this. And while you may say, especially after I take it off, those brake pads look fine. If you look at the rotor face, it's pretty rough. Both sides are pitted up real bad, and while that may not bother some people, this customer's complaint is actually that the vehicle and the brake pedal, the vehicle shakes and the brake pedal pulsates while she's braking. So we're gonna go ahead. They already did fronts. They had somebody else do those apparently, and that same person had diagnosed that these rears were fine. Although, a common misconception that while you may think your pads look good and the rotor doesn't look terrible, even though this one's an exception because it does look terrible, that your brakes may be fine. But a little trick that not everybody knows is that if the steering wheel shakes, then it's the front rotors. They're warped or something, out of round, whatever. If the brake pedal shakes or pulsates against your foot while you're pushing on it, then it's the rears. So a little easy tidbit to remember there. Brake pedal is rear, steering wheel is front. So we're gonna go ahead and pop these off. I still have to do an oil change on this car, but I will spare you guys the details of that. So, and then here's another misconception where people are like, well, Shane, those pads, they've got all kinds of meat on them. They look fine, right? Well, if you look, they're actually embedded full of rust. You know, there's pitting, there's scrapes and cuts, and some of the brake pad materials coming apart here. It's just, for the price that they are, I mean, look at the backing plates on them. It's not worth it. You know, they're cheap, and usually buying pads and rotors together is a bundled service, so you save money buying them together. So we're already in here taking everything apart. Why would we not put some nice brand new fresh brake pads on there? I know, that's just a crazy thing to say, but you know, I know some of you really think that saving that $30 is absolutely necessary, but you do that, and then you know, in a month, she says, hey, my brake pedal's going straight to the floor, my rear wheel is wet, I've got no brakes, blah, 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 you know, you worked on it last. Well, what happened is this material broke away from the backing plate here, and then that goes in and falls out. The piston overextends in the caliper, and then you can no longer hold fluid pressure in the system. So, sorry, it's not a risk worth taking, especially when, you know, your life is in my hands as far as being safe. And in the end of it, realistically, we recommend you the parts, you decline them, you come back, it's not working, you know, something like that happens. Well, now you got to pay me labor again, you know. It's so then you end up paying way more than you would have in the beginning, just adding those $30 brake pads. That's that. And we got a new one over here. Now, I haven't decided if I'm going to do an introduction type thing to the channel. This is my first video being made. I've helped other people in the past. I've worked with other YouTubers on their videos and things that they're doing in the past. So I don't know if I'll do an introduction. I will let you guys know that for the past like 2 years, yesterday maybe, I've been working on a 64 Impala, it's a 2-row hardtop V8 manual trans car. It's actually in the paint shop right now. Guy sent me pictures of it yesterday, being pretty much almost done. So that will definitely, I've made videos in the past, and with the job I was working, I didn't really have the time to, I don't know, do the YouTube thing. I mean, I've always wanted to do it, and now since I'm kind of doing, you know, what I do for work allows me to have more time available, and since I'm always working on interesting projects like this, you know, anything from doing brake pads on a late model Ford to a, I don't know, man, I do all kinds of stuff. We do 4-wheelers and motorcycles and UTVs, you know, side-by-sides, dirt bikes, old schools, general repairs. I just had a JK Wrangler in here. Did a tear down on it. It didn't quite end up the way I wanted it to, but what job ever does end up the way you want it to, you know? I do engine swaps all the time, constantly swinging engines in this garage. Anything from, I've had, you know, 04 Acuras, my XJ Cherokee, LS Motors and Silverados and Tahoes, and stainless steel brake line kits for Chevys and Fords, and you name it. Work on snow blowers and lawn mowers and farm tractors and whatever. I mean, if it's got an engine and it needs fixed, I'm your guy. But yeah, definitely be plenty more content in the future of any and all of this kind of stuff, really. I mean, I'm sure you guys will definitely share. Oops, got that brick bed, didn't I? No idea. What kind of stuff you like and what you don't like. Got an electric golf car sitting behind me. That one was an interesting one. The owner had installed LED headlights. Just put you down before I drop you. To replace the original halogens that were on it, and he crossed over a wire somewhere, somehow, and the golf car would no longer turn on or operate or function. Big surprise, right? You know, you got you electrical nightmare. You know, people tend to be terrified of dealing with electrical stuff. I don't necessarily enjoy it. It's not like if I had to choose a job, I would go out and pick the one with the electrical gremlins or anything. But I mean, with access to the right diagrams, you know, via Mitchell and ProDemand and Identifix are all actually very good tools. They all supply very good wiring diagrams, color coded and schematics and exact book test procedures, you know, for vehicles, unfortunately not for a golf car. So that one was a little more on the interesting side. I spent that one got me. It sat here for a couple of weeks while I did massive amounts of research to try to, I mean, just off the bat, find a dang wiring schematic for what was supposed to do what and when, you know. And once I found that, I was able to then incorporate some pretty common test procedures, and now it rips down the road just as good as it ever has. And I pretty much found what he did. He shorted out one of the ignition wires that go from the key switch to turn the computer box and everything on. You know, I'm all for people kind of doing things on their own, but when it comes to wiring, I wouldn't necessarily recommend just going in willy-nilly and poking wires together and whatnot, but what do I know? Anyway, if you are watching this because you wanted to see how to change brakes on a 2013 Ford Fusion, at least on the rear anyway, then you've probably already left the video. But for those of you that are interested in checking into some more things that I do, more content that I'm going to be bringing to the channel, like I said, it's definitely going to be an all-over thing. I may make a small video on the Avalanche sitting over here, getting a shift motor installed and everything I had to go through to trace down what was going on with it, which, long story short, ended up being a bad shift motor and a bad transfer case control module. And unfortunately, there's no way to tell. You know, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg, which came first. Did the transfer case control module go bad and fry the shift motor, or did the shift motor go bad and fry the transfer case control module? Honestly, I think it was probably the shift motor went bad. Something crossed over and touched in there, and you know, that was the end of it all. But that's don't worry, torque wrench. It's a 2013 Ford Focus be 100 foot-pounds, I believe. I'll double check that. All lug nuts get torqued down before they leave my care, but we are good for a test drive and then an oil change. So if you guys like the content, have any suggestions on what I should do different, or maybe what you like, what you didn't like, leave a comment below. Hit the like button, subscribe if you like, and we'll see you on the next one.